Welcome back to my channel. So on today's tutorial I'll be showing you how I made this dress. So it is just a backless dress with gathers on the sides. So please like, subscribe and share so you get notified whenever I upload a new tutorial. So even though this dress has a belt, I wish I did not put in a belt, but I definitely love how it looks good on me. So let's get to the tutorial. So I have my pattern paper here. So I'm gonna be drafting my pattern. So I'm gonna be starting off by drafting the front part and then I will cut out the back part. So I have my shoulder line there, so I'm gonna be measuring all my vertical measurements from the starting line there, which is my shoulder line, and then from my shoulder line I went down to my bust point, my under bust, my waistline, and also my hip point. If you can check at the bottom there, I also marked the full length of this dress. So after doing that, I also did the vertical lines here, as you can see, sorry, the horizontal lines here. Now I will come on here on my shoulder line. I will mark my shoulder to shoulder measurements, divide by 2, and then from the point I marked there, I'm just gonna go down by 1 inch. So from the 1 inch, I will take my round arm circumference, divide by 2, and then mark a point. So after marking a point, I did a line there, which is now going to be my chest line. And then I will just also join these other points here together like this. Now I'll be determining how wide I want my neckline to be. So from the leg line here, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna mark about 5 inches, and then after marking 5 inches, this is gonna be my neck, and then I'll also go down here by about 7 inches. So this is just to create the neck, the square neck line or the straight neckline. So from this point here, I'm just gonna be slanting down to the 1 inch point I made before, like this. And once I'm done with that, I will come here on the chest line, and then I'll just mark my bust point circumference, divide by 4, and then make a point. After doing that, I will just take my tape measure again, mark the center line here, and then I will just join here just to create a curve on the armhole. So now I'll come here on these points here. So I'll be marking 4 inches. So the 4 inches is the nipple to nipple measurement. So mine was 8 inches. I divided it by 2, and then after that I'm just gonna make a straight line like this. Now I'll come here on the neckline, and then I'll just mark half an inch on the sides, as you can see what I'm doing, but I will only need this only on the under bust and also the neckline. So if you can check, I'm just joining the point I made there for the one for 0.5. I'm taking the line straight to the bust point. As you can see, there's a curve right there. So now here on the bust point, I will just do the same by taking the under bust measurements, and then I'm just gonna be using a curve to take them up to the bust point. After doing that, I'm just gonna be extending the lines here. Now I'll be putting in my around circumference measurement. So I'll take my bust point circumference, divide by 4, make a point, and then here on the waistline I will take my waist circumference, divide by 4, add another 1 inch. So it's waist circumference divide by 4 plus 1 inch. And then also on the hip line, I took the round hip waist circumference and then added 1 inch. So after doing that, I'm just gonna be extending the lines down here. So if you can check here, I'm trying to make a curve from the hip line to the full length of the dress. So I just decided to make it a little bit bigger, so I added other extra inches using a free hand like this. So once I'm done with that, I'm just gonna be cutting out. And this is how it looks after cutting out. So now I'll be moving on to cutting out the back part. So the only difference here on the back part is gonna be the neckline here on the back, and then also I'm just gonna be adding the zipper allowance. If you can see there, I'm just added I've just measured 2 inches for the zipper allowance, and then I'll just take my front pattern paper and then place it right there where the zipper line starts. And then here on the shoulder line, I just marked where the shoulder line is, and then I just also just traced out. So basically I'm just tracing out here on the sides, and then I'm just gonna, you see there, I made a point of where the arm is. So I'm just gonna be keeping this very same measurements I have here on the shoulder. So I will just come here on the zipper allowance line. So I'm just gonna make a point where my waistline is. So mine is about 16.5 inches. So after doing that, I'm just gonna be making a curve here. So the 16.5 inches I measured right there is just for the backless part of this dress. So it also depends on how low you want your bag to be when you take the measurements. So once I'm done with that, I'm just gonna be cutting out the darts I have on the front. After cutting out, I'm just gonna be joining from the hip line to the full length of this dress. So the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm about to cut out the part where I'm going to put in the gathers for the dress. So here I'm just going in by 3 inches, and then here I'm just gonna go up down about 1.5 inches. And then after doing that, I'm just gonna be making a curve here like this, taking it down to the 3 inches I marked there on the bottom length. And once I'm done with that, I'm just gonna be cutting out the line I just made right now. So well, this is what I have. So I'm gonna be moving this to the back part of the dress. As you can see, I just aligned the sides together and then just cut out. And these are the pattern pieces that I'm gonna be using for this dress. Now I'm gonna move on to cutting out the part where I'll put the gathers. So I'm gonna take this part here. So if you can see, I have it down there, and then I'm just gonna be making vertical lines here like this. And then this is for the slashing method, so I can make the gathers. So I'm just gonna be dividing this together, and then I'll just number from 1 to 5. So if you have, and when I say cutting out along the side, this is where I mean. So I'm just gonna be cutting out. It will be easier for me to know where to place which paper. And after cutting, I'm just gonna put this aside. So here I'm just going to explain how I cut out. So on the sides, I added 1.5 inch for the sewing allowance on the sides, and then here on the rest I just added 0.5, which is half an inch. So if you can check there, I have 1.5 inches, and then the rest is 0.5. So here this is the center front. So I cut it on fold, hence why it is like this. So I also have the linings for these fabric pieces, and now I'll be cutting out the side where I'm going to be creating the gathers. So I'm cutting this on fold. So I'm gonna take the paper written 5, and then I will place it right here where the fold is, and then I'll just mark about 8 inches and placed number 4. I'll mark about 8 inches and then place number 3, number 2, and so on and so on. So the distance in between is 8 inches. So if you want yours to be full, you can just maybe go about 10 inches depending on how full you want your gathers to be. And once I'm done with placing my paper pieces, I'm just going to trace by making a line like this. So on this line I just measured about 1 inch, and this is just for the sewing allowance. So once I'm done with that, I'm just going to be cutting out, and then I'm just going to cut 2 of these. After cutting 2 of these, I'm going to place them aside and then start on cutting out the front pieces of this dress. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my front pieces, here they are. So I also cut out the lining like I explained before. So I'm just gonna be joining this. So I'll be joining these pieces together. So I'm just gonna be doing exactly like this on this fabric and also on the lining. And then guys, what I did was I also ironed in my gum stay. So as I was ironing, it was just sticking on the fabric, and then I did it only on the actual fabric, but only on the inside of the fabric. So this is what I have. So I'm just going to be aligning this right side facing the lining and also the actual fabric from the front piece, and then I'll just make a stitch making a U here on the shoulders and also the neckline. So this is what I have. So I also did a top stitch on the lining, and then this is what I have. So I'm just gonna be opening so I can show you that everything is aligned together. So now the next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna be working on the back pieces. So here on the back pieces, I'm just gonna be aligning everything together, the lining and also the actual fabric. And then after doing this, I'm just gonna be making a stitch. So this is where I'm just gonna be making a stitch. So it's gonna be from here right to where I'm going to insert my zipper. And then this is what I have. And guys, after attaching the lining to the actual fabric, don't forget to iron and also do a top stitch on the lining part. So this is what I have. Now I'll be joining the shoulder lines together from the back and the front pieces. So just make sure that the lining on the front pieces, it's exactly being attached to the lining on the back piece, also same on the actual fabric. And this is what we'll have. So after doing this, I'm just gonna be sewing in the armhole. So I'm just gonna be doing it like this. As you can see, I'm just gonna turn over like this and then just align the seam on the shoulders together with a pin, and then I'll just make a stitch here on the armhole. So I'm also going to do the same thing on this other part here. And guys, this is what I have once I'm done. So I'm just gonna be notching here. Just make sure that you don't cut on your stitches. So after doing this, I'm just gonna be turning over this inside out. So it will just be difficult, but it will definitely pass through. So this is what I'm doing. I'm just gonna turn this over like this. And once I'm done, I'm gonna come here on the zipper side. So I'm just gonna be pinning down this part here like this. And then after doing this, my aim is to just be able to easily join the sides together. So this is what I'm gonna do before joining the sides. I have my two belts ready. So if you want belts for this dress, you just take your fabric and then just cut a long rectangle. So this is what I have. So for me placing this, I'm just gonna be going up by about 1 inch or half an inch, and then I'll just place them here, and then I'm just gonna be pinning, and then after pinning I'm just gonna close in here like this, and then I will just join the sides together. And this is it. As you can see, I've also joined the belt together. So I'm just going to give you a tip for joining the sides together. Remember, we added 1.5 inches for the sides. You will take your waist measurements and then put them here, and then you also take your bust measurements, put them there, and then after that you just join the sides together. Now I'll be moving on to the part where I'm going to insert my gathers, or rather the bottom part of the dress. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take my tape measure, and then I'm just going to measure where I want my gathers to start. So it's about 16 inches right there. So from the 16 inches, I'm just going to still measure this part here. As I'm measuring here, it's about 5 inches. So from this 5 inches, it means that since this is the front part, it means also on the back part is going to be 5 inches. So in total, it's going to be 10 inches. So I will take this fabric here, the one I'm using for the gathers, and then I'll just mark about 16 inches, and then I'll just make a notch here. And then from this notch here, I'm gonna make a gather stitch here until to this other notch here. I'm not sure if you understand. So I'm going to make gathers from the notch to a notch, and then when I make those gathers, I'm gonna bring them back to 10 inches. So you see this part does not have the gathers, the side this does not have the gathers. So and I will take the fabric and then just make sure that I get the midpoint. So it's somewhere here. So I'm gonna take the midpoint and align it with the seam allowance, with the seam on the side part of the dress. So I'm just gonna, and then I'll just pin down all the way down to the bottom part of the dress. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please like, subscribe and share, and also leave a comment. And once I'm done with that, I'm just gonna make a stitch. So from here, I'm just gonna be making a stitch until the other side. And this is what I have. So you can see the gathers are well attached together. And guys, this is the back part. So I'm just gonna be inserting the zipper here, and then after inserting the zipper, I'm also going to hem the bottom part of this dress. And this is the final look for the dress. So as you can see, I've hemmed the bottom part. I have the gathers well attached. So thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe and share, and also click on the notification bell so you get notified whenever I upload a new video. So thank you so much. I will see you on the next tutorial.